Welcome back. If you've been following along each video one by one and you're finally here, I hope that the this keyword is something not scary anymore. You understand it. You have a good idea of it. And I want to take this opportunity to review the ways that we've learned we can manipulate the this keyword. The most recent one that we learned was this idea of the new binding. And this new binding was used with constructor functions, where we'd have things like a person, and we can use this.name equals name, this.age equals age, and as soon as we call this and do person1 equals new person, and we give it, let's say, Xavier and 55, well, now we have person1 with the proper this updated. The new binding allows us to assign this to the object that we instantiate the person from. So person1 will be the this keyword. So that's the one way that we can manipulate the this keyword. The other way is called implicit binding. And with implicit binding, well, it's when we used something like this, where it was just implied. We didn't have to do anything. This is just how the language works. We created an object, and inside of that object, the this keyword will refer to person. That's implicit binding. It's the most common one. But then we also learned about explicit binding. And that's when we dictate exactly what the this keyword should refer to. For example, if we have person3 here with name, age, and again, the same function, high function, but that function has, let's say, set timeout that it wants to call. But in this case, this is going to refer to person3, just like we saw above. But let's say that we want to call the set timeout method. And I mean, we could just do window or just not use anything and just do set timeout. But if we want this to refer to the window object, we can explicitly tell it what to bind to. And we say bind to window. So that if I do person3.high, this works. I get the set timeout functionality from the window. Explicit binding is using bind, call, or apply to explicitly tell the program, hey, this is what I want this to be. I want it to be window. And then finally, we learned about arrow functions. And with arrow functions, we learned that unlike all the other times where this is dynamically scoped, that is, it gets determined whenever it gets called, with the arrow functions, we can do lexical scoping. That is, wherever we write the function, that's what this binds to. So that if we do something like person4, and we have the high function, but inside of that function, we have another function. Remember, a method with a function inside of it is the biggest gotcha when it comes to this. Well, if we run inner here and we run it, everything is working because we're using arrow functions. If we didn't use an arrow function and just used a regular function, well, in that case, this would be the window object, which we usually never want. So I hope this is now easier for you to understand. Arrow functions, explicit binding, implicit binding, the new binding, allow us to harness the power of this. I'll see you in the next one.